Oh, do you ever feel that you have to hide who you are in order to fit with surroundings, or do you? No.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I can answer that one for you. Well, usually when I hide, I hide my gender, and it's usually at night, because if I can pass as a male, then I don't have to worry about the shit that can happen to you if you're female, and I pass so well at night that I actually scare women when I walk by them, and it's an interesting dynamic of being aware of what it's like to be a woman and walking at night alone, and then being perceived as a man. So like, I typically make a lot of noise to let people know that I'm behind them, instead of, because I don't think a lot of guys are aware of that walking quietly, you can really startle a woman and scare her and like put her into a panic. So I always make sure that they know that I'm there, and I make sure to pass them so that they can see me, so that I'm in their line of sight the whole time, so they can be aware of the situation. And so that's how I hide. The flip side of that, though, is if somebody figures out who I am, the cost of the violence could be even more, because people who are gender variant are oftentimes, when they're attacked, are more brutally attacked than anybody else. And so that's the danger in not passing well enough in that instance. It's hard for me to not be out as queer, because around people, because one, my voice gives me away when I start talking, and then like it's just, I fit the stereotype of what a quote unquote dyke looks like, so it's kind of hard to not be in the to be in the closet.
Could you give us an explanation of the difference between gender and sex? Because the two are different.
As far as like gender identity and sexual orientation, yeah. So sexual orientation is it's interesting, because sexual orientation is based off of gender, right, and how people identify their gender, because it's who you're attracted to, but it's also defined by what your gender is. So it's defined by the two people's gender. So if you're gender queer, there really is no term except for being queer for your sexual orientation. Now your gender identity is how you feel your gender presentation is, and your gender is a social construction. It doesn't necessarily have to match your biological sex chromosomes, and there's male and female, but there's also people who are intersex, and that it means that they have chromosomes, like sex chromosomes, of both male and female anatomy. Now there are varying degrees of the anatomy, and there is, and the old term is hermaphrodite, and the idea of a true hermaphrodite actually does not exist. Somebody who has fully functioning male and female sex organs does not exist in any sort of, at least in the human species, it doesn't exist. There are other species that can actually change their gender, like banana slugs can go back and forth, and there's certain frogs that can. But in the human species, you can't do that. Like, you can't get yourself pregnant, and so like, a lot of people like to make crude jokes about. So there's that too. So that's how gender is who you are and how you see yourself, not necessarily your body type, but like how you identify. And sexual orientation is who you're attracted to.
Well, okay. Our final question: any advice you would give to others?
Any advice? To which group of people?
To both.
Anybody, to those who just to society and others.
In general.
What words of wisdom you would pass on to for the future generations?
Future generations. Whoa, that's a big question. Really, it's sharing and learning to accept people for who they are, and learning how they got there. Because we all have different ways of how we got to who we are, and we often tend to pass judgment or think that we know everything about people, or we tend to be all about us and think that everybody's like us. But it's really learning to open up and learn to listen. But also it's learning to listen, and it's also learning how to be open about yourself, because you know, you can't just absorb everybody's story and learn about them. Like, you need to share too. And that's how we get deeper connections with people that we never would have thought we could connect with. You know, race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, you know, national origin, like all that stuff shouldn't matter. You know, what matters is the people and the experiences that we are, and really learning to appreciate that on a individual level, instead of letting, you know, mass labels and markers really dictate who we should like and who we shouldn't like, and who we telling us who we should get along with and who we shouldn't. Because when you get a group of people in a room together and they start learning about each other, like, they form bonds regardless of all those other things, you know, once those barriers are broken down. Because if you throw a bunch of little kids in a room together, they're going to play together, they're going to have fun. You know, are they going to disagree with each other or, you know, get upset with each other because of different personality things? Yeah, because personalities are just personalities. And you're going to have that with big people too. But, you know, you have all the other layers of stuff that comes up that just needs to be broken down on an individual level.
Okay.
Sounds good.